So I was kind of led to make a bit of a video now. I'm not sure. I just assumed that everybody knew a whole bunch of stuff, and it doesn't look like people really get the bigger picture. I was talking to some of my guides now about, the Illuminati, for instance. And I said that nothing bad against them or whatever, but it is still formed like a cult. So you have to remember, or you have to get to the point where all religions realize that it's a religion, right? It was stepping stones to get you to a certain point. But a time comes where God will teach you face to face. That is God's heart. Not that you would have to sit as a scholar in front of a stupid book and read about God the whole time, but never get to know God. You can't read about God to know Him. You interact with Him, you engage with Him. And through that engaging, you get to know God. Teach me your ways that I may know you. It's an actual action that takes place. It's not a sitting down and studying. There's no studying like that involved. It's not like that. Okay? So the reason I say that the Illuminati was a cult, or is that it's set up like a cult. So everything, it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle requirement type setup where your husband is involved, your children are involved, all your friends circle is involved, your family members involved. So you locked into that order, or that coven, that cult, that religion. You locked into that, just like the Mormons. Mormons are very similar. And it's terrifying if you get to the point that you no longer want to live like that, because it is a form of control. Make no mistake about that. You're living under slavery. That is slavery. To dominate another person, which it is. It's domination and control and domination. It's a big thing with the human race. But it's as a result of what you did to the world around you as well. You exerted control and domination on the world around you. Therefore, what happens is when you reach a point you no longer want to be in that sort of a setting, you can't leave, because where do you go? Right? It's like I said, it's as a result though of what was done, you implemented the same judgment on yourselves in turn. That's what happens. That's how energy works. Like there's checks and balances in this universe, and you can't overcome those. Those laws that are set in place are not like our laws that can be broken. These type of laws are infinite. They cannot be broken. They cannot be bypassed. They are there. It's like what I said to the ruling elite. Whatever you do to those under you comes back straight onto you energetically in various ways. So you will notice increase in certain types of diseases that are related to that aspect of oneself. So, for instance, if you propagate hatred, for instance, in a community or in a country, because you're ruling over countries, if you propagate hatred, so you do things that naturally aid and abet or perpetuate hatred through those cultures in that country, you will notice that you or your family will start to suffer from like cancer or leukemia, where your white blood cells turn against your own body. Your body begins to hate itself so much that your own white blood cells attack you. That's what happens. So you can't get away from that. You'll notice that the depth or the volume of your feelings become less. So the type of fulfillment or the type of joy you were able to experience on the whole when you were 20, you would no longer be able to do that when you're 30. You will notice it. If you are aware of it and you look, you will notice each decade as that gradually declines, your level of fulfillment, you will not feel as fulfilled as you would when you were 10 years ago. The duration of joy that you allow yourself to experience will lessen. So you'll have a happy moment, but you'll find that those happy moments become shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter until there's a switch. What happens is you will then get to a point where having a joyful moment is actually a foreign feeling to you. You're no longer comfortable with it. And what you will do then is, if you're in a place or in a situation where you are experiencing joy, you will naturally, subconsciously prime yourself to switch off and you won't receive it. Or you will self-sabotage in a destructive way your own relationship, behavior cycle, pattern, whatever, and cause yourself to be in a situation where there's chaos or negativity, etc., etc. It becomes that strong. It's a subconscious reaction. Ultimately, that's what it becomes. So it becomes to a point where you cannot stop it from happening. Once you experience the joy, it starts a trigger mechanism of a whole different bunch of pressure points that go off tuk, 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 naturally. It's a system that works. And to stop that becomes almost, you can't. It gets to a point where it will just override your natural abilities, and subconsciously you'll start to play it out and you won't be able to stop it. This is a natural byproduct, right? You'll notice your own relationships. You'll notice disconnect, malice, hatred, envy, lust, jealousy. These things will start to increase in certain areas and decrease in others. So in a situation where you have purposely withheld things that have caused a lack of love, that will bounce back onto you as the ruling elite. And you will experience lack of love in your own lifestyle or in your own lives, in your own relationships. You will see without fail. You can see it without fail. Every relationship around you mirrors back to you who you are inside. Okay, your world around you is a mirror mirroring back to you what's going on within you. Okay, so you will notice it in the world around you as well. Your days won't be happy days. You'll get to the end of the day and ask yourself the question, how much time have I actually been happy today? Not content or tolerating it or whatever. Happy, like really happy. And you'll find that happiness becomes almost non-existent. You're no longer a happy person. You exist in usually a bitterness or anger, pride. But bitterness and anger or fear of lack is another big one. That's where you will dwell. It's a low vibrating feeling. So naturally, you will be priming yourself to vibrate at a much lower frequency or at a very low frequency. That means that naturally you'll start to attract low vibrational experiences to yourself. You'll have more fights, more arguments, more disagreements. You'll become more segregated from those around you. So you won't be on the same wavelength, that flow that's there sometimes, that synchronicity, that synergy. That's not there anymore. That goes. And there's no way around it. Right? There's no way around it. See, it's a choice now. I'll explain more and more to you. And again, don't try to come with scientific experiments, this and that. You don't actually have the technology to really accurately test for this. You're going to need to go with your hearts. and what you feel and what you see in your own lives. The people that are hungry and all of the stuff that is unbalanced, you are the ones, the ruling elites, that will suffer the most. No one else. Because you bring all of that energy onto you. Now, when energy is channeled to you like that, when there are, say, 1 billion starving, unhappy, people, right? They channel that discontent feeling, that I hate this world, I hate this world. That energy, who directs that energy? Is it them, or does that energy follow a predetermined path? There are beings that guide and direct that energy. Okay? So that identification of it going from a Somalian refugee to Mom One, that whole process is not done by a human. There is no escaping that. That hits you 24/7. 24/7. It will affect you in ways like self-loathing, poor self-image, self-destructive behavioral patterns. You'll start to have these very real energetic consequences in your life, even though there's no trace of that in your family line. They will come. That is how it works. If you don't deal with that, what happens? So like I said, when they started the Brotherhood, the Illuminati, why would you start a brotherhood like that? It's for protection, for security. Like I said, the Rothschilds, Mom Colin, ultimately they don't care about the Illuminati. They are a human being. They care about very specific things. God has made them like that. Love, security, comfort. Like, who's the caregiver? Where do I derive care from? Legitimacy. These are your core beliefs, your core system beliefs. This is what you care about. All the rest is actually irrelevant. It's a secondary value system. It's not a priority. Your priority is to breathe. That is a priority. You know that without breathing, you die. Your priority is to pass urine and feces every day. You know that you're going to do that. You must do that. If your body cannot do that, there's a big problem. You're going to go to hospital and you can even die. You know that you need to eat every day. If you can't get food in every day, at least once or every second day, you are going to begin to starve and life becomes very uncomfortable. You need to drink water every 3 days. If you go more than 3 days without water, very, very hectic things can happen. 3 days, no water, and you can die. Okay? So these are your ultimate desires, to fulfill those needs. That is what every single human being's primal instinct is, to fulfill those needs. Okay, so call it what it is. That is your obligation. That is your obligation, is to take care of those needs first and foremost. If you do not do that, you don't exist. So you can't put anything above that. Actually, you can't. You're incapable of doing so. Okay, so it's a good place to get to start to know yourself now. Then again, what is your belief system? Because if you don't know what your belief system is, you can have somebody who understands belief systems program you and have you act in a certain way according to their agenda, and you wouldn't even be aware of it. So you need to understand, what are my beliefs? Who am I? What do I believe in? You know, what are my beliefs around money, for instance? Do I believe money brings me friends? Or do I believe that money brings me power? Do I believe that money makes me strong? Because if I do, what I also believe is, if I don't have money, I'm weak. So if I don't have constant money on me, what am I sending out actually? Do I have people that most people live from paycheck to paycheck? So what you would be sending out every day, even if you had that little bit of money, is that you're weak, because you can never have enough money, right? So maybe on the first 2 or 3 days of the month, you feel strong. But for the rest of the month, what you project vibrationally onto yourself and into the world around you is you are weak, you are worthless, because you don't have money. That's what you are projecting naturally. That's your belief. And that will then be replicated back to you in your everyday life. Through your relationships, through your endeavors, be them personal endeavors, business endeavors, it will be replicated and reflected back to you, because that is what you are sending out. Okay? So you need to take account that you have 2 sets of real beliefs. You've got your core beliefs. These are your core beliefs. Usually there's 8 of them that you can find. 8 solid core beliefs that form your identity, who you are inside. And that's obviously who you are in your world, your sphere of influence. Then you get secondary beliefs. Now, in my experience, you don't really need to focus too much on the secondary beliefs. If you focus on the core beliefs, you can change the core belief. As a core belief changes, the secondary beliefs linked to that core belief will naturally start to line up. I've seen it energetically. Okay? So where is it that you derive your legitimacy from as a person? Everybody derives legitimacy from something. So if you find a Formula 1 driver, he'll derive his legitimacy from his job. He is the #1 driver. He is this, he's that, he's this. So what is he also saying at the same time? That unless he's in that specific job, he's no one. That's why you see so many stars that are unhappy, because their belief system and value system revolve around who? The brand, not the person. Who's really getting honored when Taylor gets called up for a Grammy and this and that? It's not Taylor, it's the album. Album of the year. The brand is getting the honor, not the artist. You see? So, for instance, in a modeling world, where you have a model that starts at the age of 20 to model, and here by 50 she finishes, you'll find by 50 she's got massive problems with her identity, because her whole life, only her body has been honored and worshipped and idolized. Her personality, her emotional intelligence, her character, none of that has ever really been validated to her. So there'll be a massive imbalance. You've got to be aware of these things. Otherwise, you will implode your collective. You will implode Earth. So what will happen is you'll go from one side of the spectrum to the other, then back to the other side of the spectrum, until eventually those parameters shift and they don't come back, and you're stuck in limbo. That's when you find that a cold war will happen, where you have modern cities just not speaking to each other. Now, I'm not going to speak to him. That's that. Right? Whereas actually, that is bullshit. You don't get to have self-preservation as the military. We pay you as taxpayers to keep us safe. We pay you politicians to make sure that our international relations are secure. There should never be a Cold War, because that means that your personal politics at a military and governmental level have spilled over into our lives and are now affecting our international relations, when we have done nothing of the sort to mention a Cold War. So why is there a Cold War? The problem is not us as the country, as the people of that country. So it's not fair. The problem is your own personal politics at that level of military or governance. See? But yet we now need to pay for that. All right? So, again, there is no escaping what's happening. There is no escaping it. So now what you're finding is that people have gone from one side of the spectrum to the other. So you'll find that my parents' generation, John and Denise, and their parents' generation were very responsibility-based, hard-working type individuals. There's been a shift where people are no longer, it's not a responsibility-based culture anymore. It's a rights-based culture, because responsibility is a character thing. It's an identity thing. People have lost their identities. They don't have an identity anymore. Right? That's why you see the world doing what it's doing. Now, what you'll find is that you'll go through your gangster stage, that hooked on I don't give a fuck look. So people will purposely go out of their way to be meaner, colder, this, that, and then reach a tipping point where it's now so bad that the whole of society have become disconnected at an individual level. So what happens now is there becomes voids within each and every person on the earth. You become lonely within. You become isolated. You feel isolated. You know, I mean, if you think of it today, if I randomly walk up to somebody and give them a hug, that person usually steps back. They reel. That is not a normal reaction to affection. This is now trauma that starts to set into the human collective. Because what happens is people go day for day for day and they don't address the disconnect. I sit next to you in the bus and I'm disconnected. I project over you that you mean nothing to me. Stay away. Just don't even look at me. Right? I, as a human being, feel that hatred projected onto me. And I also feel injustice because you don't know me. Why are you attacking me? I don't do anything for myself. I don't stand up for myself. So I validate to myself that what you are projecting onto me is real or is right. And boom, you sit with a cesspool of energetic consciousness diseases breeding, multiplying, and the severity or intensity of each consciousness disease is increased exponentially. Eventually what happens is things like love, attraction to the opposite sex dies out. You'll notice a decline now in your reproductive rate. The desire to want to reproduce starts to go. Eventually, what will happen is the sperm inside a male penis will no longer be produced. The body will stop producing sperm. You'll find that diseases will be passed on genetically, consciousness diseases. There is no medication to cure that. You can't cure that with medication. That's not how it's done. Right? You'll get to a point where you melt down as a race. You'll melt down as a race. What will happen is energetically, you'll decide on a world event. There will be like a black winter where the collective of Earth will energetically decide on a doomsday event to happen. Because as a natural check and balance, because eventually what will happen is you'll eat each other. You will kill each other all off. You'll go mad. right? Like Flacker zombie mad, if there wasn't this check and balance. This check and balance is a collective combined desire to want to reconnect as a species at any cost. This again will be done on an energetic level where you are not involved in that consciously. You won't know the time, you won't know the date, but it will be a catastrophic black winter type event. It will remove whatever your collective as human beings on earth perceive as the problem, what is in the way. Be it technology, be it money, be it this, be it that. You will come up with a scenario and it will play out in your earth. And it will be based on what you are wanting to accomplish in order to reconnect as a collective. Okay? This is very close, this incident. Okay? It's very close. We really need to make strides in order to prevent such a thing from happening. The Durban thing is just a forewarning of what can happen. Okay? It's a forewarning. I'm trying to send this information out and I hope that it reaches the world rulers, because I'm not sure what they are teaching you. But I have a feeling that they are doing you a disservice. I would hate to think what type of lives you are currently living because you are not adequately prepared for what it is that is in front of you. It will become more and more depraved, whatever ventures that you go into, because you are not receiving the amount of joy, fulfillment, and other aspects of that experience anymore. The older you get, the more severe that will become. You must receive those things somehow. So you will find ways of doing that, extreme ways. That is why it happens. It's not a sustainable path. It is designed to have you removed first and replaced before losing the whole of earth. Please understand that. Any which ways, I hope this information helps a bit. We'll give you more. I think it's just getting to the point now where we are going to call this war for a while, because it's becoming very violent and we are not of the kind or of the type that want to purposely keep hitting and hitting and hitting. When you are lying on the floor and you're covered in blood and I keep hitting you and hitting you, I'm not that type of person. I don't want to be that type of person. I'm a minister by heart and I'm very good at what I do. Okay? I'm very good at what I do. There is no more competition between us now. Right? I don't want that. There's no more competition. I am on a path and I'm being trained by my mommy and daddy, like I've always been. God told me that the time will come where I won't need books and people to teach me anymore, that He Himself will teach me face to face, and that's happened. I can help you. I really can. I can explain things in a way that's easy to understand and help you to grasp the different concepts and help you to walk a road so that we can get you grounded and all of that. Not that you're not, but not where you are right now. I'm really not your enemy. I don't want what you have. I don't. I've never wanted that. It's not for me. I want to minister to people. I could work with each of you individually, and I can transform your lives. I'm offering you that free of charge. I can tell you now, you'll search until the cows come home. There is no one on this planet that can do what I do. I work with my father, my mother, and Eve. There is no one higher than that. There isn't. So I hope this reaches you. I hope that you're okay, Famous Five. I don't want to fight with you. I know that you live incredibly hectic, intense lives. I know that at this moment, everything seems like it's fucked. No matter what we do or where we look, there's just a fuck up because we are the worst possible things, blah, 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 blah. But it doesn't have to be that. It's far easier to do this walk than what it may seem. You aren't required to do what I'm doing in any ways. I don't have to be single like this. I can have a woman if I want. I just choose not to have anybody around me right now. Please think about it. I promise you I won't steer you wrong. Everything that you're wanting and more is what I'm offering. But yeah, anyways, be blessed.